Hello everyone. In this example application, we are going to go over the topic of local storage. So what local storage allows you to do is save and retrieve information that your users have inputted to your application. Now, for local storage, it before local storage, you weren't able to save this information in a very easily accessible way. You need to either use a server or use cookies or some other type of technology. With local storage, there is a programming interface directly within JavaScript that allows you on modern web browsers to store the information on the user's phone, computer, whichever device they're using. So that being said, when you're using local storage, that information is saved on the user's device. So if they switch devices, it won't come over with them. But as long as they use the same device and come back to the same web page, they'll have access to that information that you've stored on your website. So in this example application, we've got two fields, a name field and a languages field. And in the bottom here, we'll display what the saved values are. So to give you a demonstration, my name is Matt, and the languages I know, for example, are HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. I hit store, and those appear here. If I refresh, they're still there. If I open a new tab and go to the same place, they're still there. So that information carries along. You can close the web browser. It's always going to be there for you. So now, how does this actually work? So in this application, we have two files. We have our HTML file and our JavaScript file. Our HTML file consists of these two fields here, as well as a button to store, which will run once it's clicked. It'll run the function store language, we'll get to in a moment. And we also have an output area where we will output the stored information. And whenever the page is loaded, on load, once the body is loaded, it runs display lang. So display the languages that have been stored. So the real important parts of this application, however, are in our two JavaScript functions, store language and display language. So the first thing we do is we get the user, so I'm just going to clear that, and so now I've stored nothing because there's nothing in these fields. So the first thing that we want to do here is retrieve the name. So these two lines are equivalent. However, this one is in JavaScript, or sorry, this one is in jQuery's format. So anytime that you see a function that's just the $ here, that is a jQuery function. So this is saying document get element by ID name. So that hash symbol is the name, whereas this one is getting the element with the ID languages and get the value. So this will retrieve Matt in this case, and this line will retrieve HTML space CSS. Next, we're creating an array, and we are going to split HTML space CSS on the space so that we've got an array with two values, one HTML, one CSS. Next, we're going to create a new JavaScript object using JavaScript object notation. So if we just did this, ignore that stuff there, that would be a new empty object. But in our object, we want to have two attributes, name and languages, and we're going to store the username that we've grabbed up here, which is Matt, and we're going to store that array with those two values, HTML and CSS. Next, we're going to use a try and a catch. We need to use this because if a user goes to your web page and local storage isn't supported, if they're running a much older browser, for example, it will crash things. If you are, when we run this line of code, you might find that the local storage space on the user's machine is all full. And in that case, you'll also get an error. Now, if that happens, then everything below this try catch, so this display language running this function, this won't happen. So This way, if we have it in try catch, even if it gives us an error, this part of the code still runs that I have highlighted. So within our try catch, we are going to try running local storage. This is defined by the web browser in JavaScript, kind of similar to document. It's already defined. Local storage, we are going to set the item languages, that's our key, and the value. We're going to use this json.stringify. This turns this object from something that JavaScript can use into a string. And so that string is going to actually be formatted very similar to this. It's just going to be one long string, and that's going to be saved on the user's machine. If there's an error, this block of code here handles the exception for multiple different browsers. Finally, we are going to run this display language function. So this whole function here, this will store the values that the user has entered. Down on this smaller function here, display language, when this is run, we again use local storage. This time, instead of setting the item, we get the item, and we've got that key languages, the same one that we used up here. And we parse it. So here we stringified it, we turned it into a string. Now we need to parse it and turn it back into something that the JavaScript environment can actually use. Here we've got the two equivalent versions again, one that's standard JavaScript on the bottom and one that's jQuery's format. And here we go jQuery.html, and we are going to, we're going to get the saved name tag here, or the strong tag with the ID saved name. And we are going to set the inner HTML of it to be the name that we have saved. In our case, it will be Matt. And again, on the bottom, we are going to join. So we've got go language. We get this languages.array languages attribute that we set here, which contains an array. And on that array, we run the join function, and that will turn it from an array into a string joined or connected by comma space. And we set the inner HTML equal to that output, and that's what we see right here. Save name is Matt, so this is where we save the value, and save languages are HTML and CSS. Okay. So all the code's here, you can copy it down directly and it'll work. The only other thing you'll need is to have your jQuery and jQuery mobile scripts and CSS. All right, good luck.